So Becca, I like to spend a lot of my time around some really smart people because I feel like they're more likely to have some really good ideas. And I try to learn from them as best I can.
Of course.
And one idea you had that I learned about last year was that you always have a theme or word for the year.
Yes, I do.
So I have decided to do that for 2023. And my
Oh, I'm so
theme,
excited.
my theme is honoring my limitations.
All
So,
right.
so I don't really get too caught up in New Year's resolutions and things like that. But I think we focus too much on goals instead of the process of things.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to honoring my limitations and excited about all the mistakes I'm going to make along the way.
Well, that's where the learning happens, of course, right? And
Yeah.
you say that, and I say that too. I say stupid things like that, like looking forward to my mistakes, right? And never all poo-poo on you, Becca, you saying your stupid sayings. But it works so well, right? If you flip that script in your own head, right? It just works like magic. And so, and if you get in those habits of doing those little things all the time, it's a lot easier. But I love that that's your choice for this year. I think it's so because I'm always like, Doug, you have days off, you look tired, you can't do so much, blah, 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 right? And
Yeah.
it's always that. And so honoring those limitations that, like, yeah, you, my friend, also have spoons. You
Yeah,
must count them with the rest of us,
definitely.
right?
And I'm sure there's going to be a point where I'm going to think, oh, I got this under control. And then 2 days later, I'm going to be really overwhelmed. And
Yes.
I'm gonna try to look forward to that and learn from that. So I'm gonna try
Well,
to
right,
learn.
that's the hard part is like when we teach ourselves new habits,
Yeah,
inevitably you're going to forget and do your old habit. Inevitably you're going to crash and burn one day, right? The whole goal though is just to get up well and like forgive yourself. Give yourself some kindness, right? If you make that mistake, that doesn't negate all the times you did it better before that, and it doesn't negate all the times you're going to do it better in the future. Like, just got to be like, okay, I screwed up, right? We don't create habits overnight, so we can't get rid of them overnight, I think. But I love that you're doing a theme. I love, and because the whole idea behind a theme to me is that you can't fail on a theme. Like, you can't flunk a theme. You can certainly, when you do resolutions, you set yourself kind of this boundary, and it's a very black and white boundary. You've either lost the 5 pounds, stayed on the diet, right, or not, right? But when you have a theme, it kind of travels with you throughout the year. So when you're faced with all of your annual challenges, right, whatever comes up, it's always like through that lens. And so your challenge this year is, am I honoring my limitations? That's the question of the year in every scenario, right? For
what's
me this year, I will share my word because it took me a long time this year to pick. And I have gone this year for 2023 with the word fulfill, because I have been through so many massive transitions this year, in the year 2022, that now I want to see all those dreams fulfilled, all the things that I imagined would happen because of the move, because of my job change, because of all those things. Now I want to fulfill all those little pieces for myself and start to enjoy some of the transition. So that is my word, and my theme for this year is to look for fulfilling things, to find fulfillment in what I do. So yeah, but I am so excited for today's guest, and you know this, but I will share it with everyone else, that I often have like weird, I call them crushes on people when I really think that they're talented at something that I envy, right? And so our guest today is a writing crush of mine. She is a fantastic advocate and a fantastic writer, and oftentimes I will want to write things, but then I find her stuff and I'm like, oh, but she said it better already. I'm just going to take hers and share it instead. So that's where we're coming from. So please welcome everybody, Jaime Heidel. I'm so excited to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Hi. I wasn't sure if I should speak then. You guys were talking and I'm like, maybe I should just turn my camera off.
Yeah.
so Jamie, we have a lot of people that have a lot of different interests that we talk with. And some of your interests I don't think we've discussed here on InfoDump, so I'm really excited to get into those things with you. So from my understanding, you like creepy things, but especially those things that are unexplained. So tell me a little bit about that. How did you like get into this kind of passion of yours?
So here's the thing. A lot of times when I tell people, and I've actually stopped telling people this because they definitely get the wrong idea. I do love creepy things, but when I say that, I've said to people, "Oh, I love horror movies." And people, when you hear someone say that, they get the idea that it's really like the gory and
Mhm.
slasher, like torture, kind of like Saw, Hostel movies. I won't even look at them. I I don't like that. That actually really, really freaks me out, and not in a fun way. It grosses me out, and I'm not looking to be grossed out. So I've said that I like horror movies, and people get this idea of like, I don't know what they think, but it's usually doesn't translate. So then I tell people, no, I like horror movies like The Strangers or Mama or Halloween. The original 1970 Halloween is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I will go on record saying this. Hopefully Jamie Lee Curtis never hears me, but Halloween Ends ruined the franchise, and I'm still mad about it. But that's another side note. So other horror movies that I like, yeah, I liked the Blair Witch Project when it first came out. I was all of 19 years old, and I saw it in the theater, and I was terrified. And I actually went home and turned my lights on and my radio and my TV, and I was so scared I couldn't sleep. But so stuff like that, like The Hitcher. The Hitcher is considered a thriller. I don't know if either one of you have ever saw that, the original with Rutger Hauer. It's brilliant story. Stuff like that. Joyride, that's another one that was one of my favorites. So when you think about the kind of like horror I'm into, it kind of falls into like the horror thriller category, or the paranormal, or it's like a mystery, like what's going on. I hear some bumps in the night, something strange is going on, and I'm trying to figure it out. So I really like that aspect of it. And I'm the same way with podcasts. I really like like kind of creepy podcasts. Like, and again, the kind of creepy I like is like, she was driving down the road, and someone was following her. It was somebody following her, or she saw something out of the corner of her eye in the woods, And for me, that's like the best part of it. Sometimes people get the idea that horror lovers, I can't speak for all horror lovers, but that it's just like, oh, it's slash and gore. But for me, the best part of it is actually the beginning of a horror movie, when things are starting to get weird, because I get this sort of like anticipatory feeling in my stomach, like the kind of butterflies in my stomach. And it's like, ooh, this is exciting. And you get on the edge of your seat, and it's like really safe kind of endorphins, and okay, what's going on? But then when you get to the last part where, the monster finally comes out and starts eating people, or the killer comes out and starts hacking people to death, that's when I'm like, oh God, oh no. I don't want to see that part, even though I'll watch it, but I kind of watch it through my fingers. I'm like, oh geez, that's unfortunate. So for me, it was like the buildup of it, is the part that I like the most when it comes to creepy stuff. So, and I'm the same way with podcasts. There are certain things that I actually refuse to watch and refuse to listen to, because certain topics I just nope. But yeah, and I don't know, it's just something, it's hard for me to explain why I like it. And what's funny is that you're both asking me this, and no one ever has. So and I don't, info dumping is hard for me because I've trained myself out of it.
Right.
So, like so many autistic people, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But yeah, so I feel kind of stilted. But yeah, that's why I like it. I could tell you how I started getting into it and all that. But
yeah, what I find interesting about it is I'm very similar. So like gory, kind of really graphic horror to me is not, I just feel like I'm watching a really bad movie. Like it doesn't, I don't get entertained by it. I'm like, that's not realistic. That wouldn't be that much blood. That's not how that, right? So I go through it, and I can't lose myself, because Like, I can't lose myself in the story. I like realistic creepy. That's what
Yeah,
I
realist. I
right?
do. Same.
Like,
I am the same way.
this could possibly happen to me if I was driving alone on this road by myself, and that is scary. Like,
Yes.
that is real scary. And I that's what I find. And so maybe it's like that. I need to believe that it could happen. I need to be able to buy in to
Yeah,
the story enough to be scared by it, I guess.
true. Doug, do you watch anything like that, or is that not your thing?
Most horror is not my thing. I just kind of like what you were describing, Beck. I kind of get bored sometimes with it. It's just like, oh yeah, here comes the
Right.
bad guy. He's gonna kill someone now. It's like, probably at the end, like something bad is gonna happen to him, or it's gonna be like a to be continued, type of thing. I'm wondering about kind of the thriller part of it.
Mm.
When you kind of like trying to like maybe is there a part of a problem solving element to it? Like, are you good at like figuring out like what's about to happen? Because I'm definitely not.
It's funny because my partner is really good at figuring things out and figuring out where the plot is going. And then sometimes I actually just watched a movie last night called Significant Other, and oh wow, it didn't go in the direction that I thought it was going to go. And first of all, it was sci-fi and I didn't realize it. But I liked it. It was weird. It was one of the weirdest movies I've seen in a while. It had elements of sci-fi in it. But unfortunately, as soon as I saw like the first 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, I know what's going to happen, but I still watched it anyway. I think it's just a matter that I've seen a lot of movies and a lot of like horror movies and consumed a lot of horror content, a lot of thriller content and creepy stuff. So I kind of know what's coming. So when I do end up seeing a movie that isn't necessarily like that, I tend to really be impressed with it. Like I saw the movie Men when it first came out, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant art piece of a movie. It was one of the most, it was just beautiful. It was bizarre and it was so deep, and it explained so much of women's experience in dealing with men.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to you, Doug. It talked about the generalized experience of what it's like to be a woman in a society where men look at women as objects.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean all men do that, but it was brilliantly illustrated. And excuse me a minute. So it was just so brilliantly illustrated that I was just like locked to the screen, and I'm just staring at it, and I was absolutely enthralled, and I can't wait to see, I can't wait to see it again. I haven't seen it, I haven't sat down to see it, but it was brilliant and it was beautiful. And I think a lot of some horror movie goers might have thought that it was going in a completely different direction. So they might have gone, what am I watching? But I absolutely loved it. Another movie that came out recently, which huge disclaimer here, I don't recommend seeing this movie if you have had a lot of trauma. If you have had a lot of trauma, brace yourself, because it is a doozy, but smile. Wow. Blown away by how they tackle some really sensitive, really difficult subjects, and also turn it into a terrifying movie. At the end of the movie, I sat there, my partner and I were sitting there, and everybody left the theater, and I burst into tears because it was a very, very emotional movie. So again, if anyone's going to see that, be aware of what you're seeing. It's a very triggered movie, but it was very, very, very well done.
Is your experience different watching those movies in the theater versus watching them at home?
Before the pandemic, I enjoyed going to theaters like opening night. If it was a movie like for example, when the Halloween trilogy rebooted, it was so exciting to go see that in theater, the first one, even though I was disappointed in the ending. It was nice to see that and have this like reaction with everyone else. It's kind of a safe way for me and a comfortable way for me to be kind of social in a way, because my partner and I are sitting there and everyone is like jumping at the same time, screaming at the same time, laughing at the same time, and it gives me that feeling of community without ever having to actually interact. So that is wonderful. I love that so much. I feel like I get the energy from people and the energy that they're giving out, but I don't have to interact with them. So that's nice. And I feel safe. And I also, it's kind of interesting. I've seen The Nun in the theater too. And there was some jerkwad talking behind me, and I was so mad because I'm like,
Oh,
it's a very atmospheric film. You don't want to watch that with someone talking behind you. It's so annoying. But I remember that still because I was like, "Ah." But that was another one. It was very, it was just the music is very droning and deep and hypnotic. It's just all encompassing orchestral type of sound. And watching that in the theater was amazing. I'm glad that the first time I ever saw it was in the theater. But at home, I mean, I definitely I don't know if I feel the same way. I mean, I can watch a movie like that alone, curled up. I like to get all curled up and turn all the lights off and just like sink into another world for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's quiet time for me. It's time for me to just stare off into one space and just feel emotions that are kind of generated emotions, and kind of feel what the characters are feeling and go through it with them. And I feel very connected when I do that. I know some people will watch a movie and they're kind of like half scrolling through their phone and half like not paying attention. And usually, unless I'm bored with the movie, I am totally all in. I'm having the same emotional experiences as the characters, and I love it.
I can relate to that because I feel like as I've gotten older, I realized why I love movies and now TV series so much, because I feel that connection to the characters. And I feel like that's part of my autistic experiences, that desperate need for connection.
Yeah.
So beyond creepy things or unexplained things, apparently you're a lover of Sims.
I am, but I did want to just circle back around because you did ask me how it started, and I did want to tell you how it started.
Sure.
So my love of all things creepy started when I was very young. My grandmother, she was into it. She was definitely into horror movies. I watched them way too young. And I remember that I went to the library. I was probably like 6, maybe even younger. Went to the library, and on the bottom shelf, and I remember this. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember this. There was a book about ghosts and stuff like that, ghost spirits and all this, and it had a very distinct cover of a ghost coming down the stairs, and it's a really famous picture of a supposed spirit. And it talked about aliens and UFO and all this other stuff. And I took it home, and I had it all the time. I checked it out of the library constantly. I read it cover to cover. I was absolutely enthralled and completely obsessed, and that's how it became, my thing. And then, as a lot of 80s and 90s babies grew up with scary stories to tell in the dark, and I read those voraciously, and I loved them. And they re-released them about a year ago, and I bought them, and I was so happy. So that's how it started. It just started out with I remember another thing too that I would love to share, and even though it's really bizarre and I'm not sure who could relate to it, is that, and I'm going somewhere with this, my stomach when I was a kid always hurt. I still have that problem now. I've got a lot of digestive issues, like a lot of autistic people do. I mean, a lot of us have digestive problems. And I remember when I would read these things, I would forget that I was in pain. And not only was I not in pain, but I started having this butterfly, like comforting feeling in my stomach, like a warm butterfly, excited feeling. And it was one of the only times that my stomach didn't hurt. So I also associated reading that and consuming that type of content, which was just creepy, but not, obviously I was a kid, not gory, but that really did do something. And it sort of sucked me in so deeply that I didn't feel the physical pain anymore. And I also felt like my stomach felt, I guess, good for a while. So that was another thing I could never articulate and explain when I was a child. Like, why do you like creepy things? And of course, everyone had this thought, it's the 80s. Everybody had this thought like, oh God, she's going to grow up to be a serial killer. No, I ended up growing up to be a writer. I've published a few scary stories myself. And that's how it all began. But I wanted to include that because I didn't want to leave that out.
And you are a lover of Sims?
I am. I love The Sims very much. It's funny because I started playing a lot later than most people would start playing. Because I saw it when I was in my 20s and I was like, oh, this is The Sims. This is really cool. I can never go near it because I can tell you right now, I'll never live life. I saw that and I knew I would immediately become sucked in. I would become addicted and I would never do anything with my life. I would just do that forever. And so I didn't go near it. I didn't feel like I was capable of going near it because it would become so addictive. The thing that I ended up playing before that was Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I never actually played it. I just sort of set up the towns and stuff. Or not set up the towns, I'm sorry, they don't have towns. Set up the rides, and I could spend hours doing that. Love setting things up, love building. But then I finally, embarrassingly, started playing Sims when I was 30. And I loved it. I loved everything about it, but I didn't actually play the game very much. What I did for a very long time was just build. Very much like I used to do as an autistic child. I set things up and I got my dollhouse ready, so to speak, and I got my dolls ready, so to speak, and I set everything up and I made it all perfect. And then I would close the game down because that's how I play. It took me a very long time to be like, okay, maybe I'll go in there and I'll play the game. You know, like this is weird. Sure, I'll try this. But I ended up finding the creation process. The creation process is so engrossing. It's really hard for me to stick to one thing. So I would create the Sims and, you know, maybe play and stuff. But I will say that one of the things that I learned early on in The Sims is I actually learned some social skills from The Sims. And I was amazed at some of the things that The Sims answered for me that I didn't even know I had questions on. So back when I think it was either Sims, the first one or maybe the third one, I think I bypassed the second one completely, but I got the third one and I remembered that there's certain things that you have to do in the third one they don't make you do in the fourth one, which is great because it's much more neurodivergent friendly for me. But one of the things that they do is like they have friendship interactions, right? So you have a conversation with somebody and you can kind of see the little plus bar, you can see the negative bar to see if they like the interaction, they don't like the interaction, and what, you know, they have little thought bubbles above their head to tell you what they're thinking. And I remember very distinctly one time I was talking to somebody, you know, as my character, that I had a character, my Sim was talking to another Sim. And I remember one of the options was give a hug. And the Sim went to give the person a hug and the person's like this and like tries to get away and is like, no, 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 no. And I went, oh my God. And I had this huge revelation that I'm a hugger. I know people have this idea that all autistic people despise hugs, but no, that's not true. I'm actually a hugger, but it depends on who it is. But I'm very physically affectionate. I always have been. So for me, I saw the two Sims interacting. They didn't know each other very well. So I went to do that and I was embarrassed for my Sim. And then I remembered that this used to happen to me all the time. That I would try to do some social interaction and I would get it wrong, but nobody had those convenient little bars over their heads to tell me that I did something wrong. So I saw that and I was like, oh my God, that actually makes sense, because people that I would know in, you know, especially when I was a kid, people would know, or excuse me, when I was a kid, I used to be very physically tactile. I was very tactile. I'm a very tactile person. I'm very sensory seeking. I'm sensory avoiding in some ways. But like someone would have long hair and a ponytail and I couldn't stop playing with it. Or, you know, somebody would have cute puffy cheeks and I'd have to squeeze them, or stuff like that. Or I would see people and I'd be so exuberantly happy to see someone that I would give them a hug and they didn't even like, they were like, you know, I didn't understand. I didn't know. I would hug total strangers when I was a child. So seeing that was like, it taught me something. And then there was another thing that happened too, where my Sim character was friends with this other Sim character and they were kind of building a friendship. Now this doesn't happen in The Sims 4, but it happens in The Sims 3. Something like the phone rang and then the Sim picked it up and she's like, well, Judy hasn't heard from you in a while, so I guess you're not interested in being friends anymore. And that was another huge sock to the stomach, because I'm like, that was the first time in The Sims in my 30s that I knew about friendship maintenance. That's how I learned, from The Sims. I was like, I didn't even know what friendship maintenance was. Because for me, as an autistic person, once I make a connection with you, we have a connection. Never goes away. It goes like this. Nice. And for people who are listening, I'm doing like a plane with my hand. It just goes on an even scale, even. It just stays that way. But from what I've understood of neurotypical people, you have to maintain the friendship and, talking and hanging out regularly and catching up regularly. Otherwise, and same plane hand, it goes down. And I never knew that. And that was The Sims teaching me that. So that was, I don't even know how to describe the emotions I felt when that happened. But mostly playing The Sims now, I love building. I'm not great at it because I'm terrible with spatial relations, but I love doing it. I love building. I love creating characters. I've gotten to the point where I do play, but I get really bored because I'm autistic, also ADHD. So I get bored. And then I'm like, okay, I've played this. This is great. And then I start a new family. And then I start this whole storyline in my head. And then I'm like 4 or 5 games deep. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never finished any of my storylines. So I'm still trying really hard to finish like a storyline. I mean, not that you can never finish them, but you know what I mean? Like have a sim, have them get married, maybe have a child, and then like go from there and have this whole story. It's really hard for me to keep up because I really, really, really enjoy the creation process. So I can get bored with the actual playing process pretty easily.
It's been a long time since I played a sim, but I remember I had a love-hate relationship with it. I loved actually playing it initially, and I would like I would just start like playing and I couldn't stop. And then like all of a sudden I would like look at like this town or this world that I'd built and I would look at the farm that I put down, and then right next to it was a skyscraper, and I think that didn't make any sense. So I would just get frustrated with myself and I would quit. So that's my Sims experience.
The Sims, I think for me, my only recollection of playing it right now is that I get annoyed in The Sims at the same things I get annoyed at in real life. Like how you have to pay attention to the going to the bathroom and the showering and I'm like, come on, that's already annoying in real life. Why does it have to be annoying here? Like, come on. It's like I was busy doing the thing. I have to stop and go to the bath. That's exactly how I feel.
That's how I feel in real life. Absolutely. That's how I feel in real life. There's a cheat for that. And I sometimes use it. You can disable the need decay, so you can keep them up and they never have to go to the bathroom, they never have to eat, they have to do anything. So I definitely use a lot of cheat codes. I use money cheats. I use a lot of cheats because to me it's just creating. I don't really want it to be a challenge. I'm not looking for a challenge. My life is challenging. Like every day is challenging. So I tend to use all the cheats because I want to just have this perfect life. Like my Sims are in a perfect world. That's what I want. So but yeah, I completely agree with you as a person who has not great interoception. And also I could be really hungry or whatever and not want to stop what I'm doing. So I don't stop what I'm doing. And then I get to the point where I feel like I'm going to pass out. So I get it. Yeah. Sometimes that irritates me too. I'm like, I just took you to the bathroom and then because everything goes so fast.
Did we not just go?
We just went. And then if everything goes so fast in The Sims, it's like, it's been actually 7 hours. And then as soon as they drink a glass of water, they instantly have to go to the bathroom. And you're like, yeah. You just what? And it's instant. It's like that. Okay. That's not very realistic. It's not instant like that. So other things that I've found hilarious in The Sims is of course the glitches. I love the glitches. They're so funny. But they're also annoying. So I don't know, Becca, how much Sims you've actually played, but everyone in the Sims community makes fun of this. For some reason, you can have like a perfectly good kitchen sink and they will, as soon as they have a plate, they'll go all the way upstairs to the bathroom on the 2nd floor to wash a plate in the bathroom sink. And that's very strange. Like, so why are you doing that? They've never fixed it. It's always been that way.
Wow.
So I'm just like, what is going on? But some of the glitches are hilarious. So it's fun. But yeah, you're right. The bathroom thing, the eating thing, it's like I kind of had a metaphor for life and kind of looking at like, well, it's impossible to do all these things, like keep the sim alive while also keeping them on, at their job, while also having some hobbies, while also having friendships and everything.
It's hard.
It's really hard. Yeah.
So, and I think, well, it's really hard. So that's why adulting is hard, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, Becca mentioned earlier, Jamie, don't want us to leave this episode without talking a little bit about your writing and how people can find all the great stuff that you write.
Well, you can find the stuff that I write at www.thearticulateautistic.com, or you can go to my Instagram. It's the same handle, at thearticulateautistic. And I do, taking a bit of a break right now, but just for the holidays. But I do discussion questions. I try to do them Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I try to post. I don't always do discussion questions, but that's basically what I do on my Instagram is I ask people in the autistic community, have you experienced this? Is this something that you're familiar with? Is this something that happens to you as well? And if I get a lot of feedback and I get a lot of people saying, yeah, people misunderstand this and they misunderstand that, I tend to like look at it and go into an article or add it to an article or just write a whole article about it. One of the things that I wrote recently was about how, and not all autistic people have this problem, but how some autistic people have a problem finding objects that are in plain sight. It's not just autistic, it's ADHD as well. And I'm the kind of person who, if there's a cluttered desk and you ask me to get something, I can't do that. And I can't find it. And I start panicking. And when I see a desk like that, I call it the amorphous blob of one thing. And that's all I see. So I don't see whatever it is you're asking me to get. And I wrote about that, and so many people identified with that I did turn it into an article. And I was surprised by the amount of people who were like, oh my goodness. I will say this was a bit of a pet peeve for me though. I couldn't believe how many people said to me in response to that, oh, I thought my child was just joking. Or I thought my son was just exaggerating, or my daughter was just pretending.
Right.
Or even my husband. Oh, I thought my husband was just
being stubborn. That's my favorite one.
Right. Yeah, being stubborn and stuff. And I sat there with my jaw open. I'm like, so it's not just me. And I know that, but sometimes just to get these confirmations that so many autistic people are still being like treated like they're messing around. Right. It's disturbing to me, and it just fuels my need to explain and advocate even more. So, but
well,
yes,
I appreciate the way that you manage these topics, because we tend to get blamed, right? And when in these scenarios, right, we're the ones that have to do the extra work, or we're the ones that are blamed for it not going the way it's supposed to go, or whatever, right? And what I love about your pieces is they're direct, but they're not yelly. Like, you're not yelling at people, which is what it's, when you want to share articles, or you want to share what you're struggling through with people you care about, you don't want to hand them a yelly article. You just want to be like, hey, this is why this is hard for me. Right. And that's what I love about your pieces. And so I share them regularly. And I really do appreciate the time that you take to really honestly and directly talk about what goes on for us in the community, and how we get misinterpreted and misunderstood on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. My goal, and I've said this many times, is to try to reduce the number of neurodivergent people coming up in the world now, to reduce the number of us who have complex PTSD like I do. Yeah. Because constantly being misunderstood every moment of every day, if you have any contact with the outside world, it's traumatic in and of itself, even if you don't go through any other type of abuse. Even though it's not intended to be abuse, going through that and having people misunderstand you or get angry with you all the time and not knowing why is damaging and traumatizing. And it also feels like it has the same effect as purposeful gaslighting, because the neurotypical person is seeing one thing, the autistic person is seeing another, and neither one of them is wrong. You're just experiencing the world differently. So that's why I do what I do. And I call myself an autistic communication translator more often than I call myself an advocate, because I like to get into the nitty gritty, tiny little pieces of like, this is why this is happening. Yeah. And it seems to be helping. So I'm glad that it's helping you too, Becca.
It's definitely, I've seen the impact, and I write about a lot of things, but when you see another writer who just does a really good job at articulating, for lack of a better word, but at articulating, right, these challenges so that it truly demystifies it, right? So it's like, it's not like this crazy thing that's happening. Here's what's happening. A, B, C, right? And I'm like, she does it well. I'm not going to try and do it. I'm just going to take her article and share it with somebody. You know what I mean? And so I really, kudos to you. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't read anything that Jaime has written, please go and read some articles and share them with your family and friends in your circle, because she does a great job with it.
Thank you very much. I love what I do. I feel like it's my life's work. I feel like it took me quite a while to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, but now that I found this is exactly what I want to do for forever.
Jaime, we end each episode with an 11-question questionnaire and called Inside the Autistic Studio. So just 11 quick questions. Whatever comes to your mind, share it with us.
Okay.
Number 1, what are your pronouns?
Oh, she, her.
And what is your preferred stim?
My preferred stim. Oh my goodness. Hold on. I'm a squishy girl. Squish is my favorite. Anything squishy, I'm squishing it.
What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck. Definitely.
Who do you love and what are you doing about it?
Oh, what do you mean by that? That's too general.
I guess it could be a person. It could be maybe a special interest. Anything that comes to your mind. Could be it could be another. It doesn't have to be a human being.
Okay.
Could be a pet.
Yeah.
I don't have one of those. Who do I love? All of humanity. What am I doing about it? Trying to save it.
So the next two are fill in the blank. You may be neurotypical if.
You're putting me on the spot here. You may be neurotypical if you say to someone, if there's anything I can do, just call. And when the person calls, you get upset about it.
You may be autistic if.
Someone says, hey, let's go for coffee, and you actually think that they want to go for coffee.
I love those very specific examples for these last two. That was wonderful. What's something you want to learn to do or be better at?
Well, I actually make jewelry in my spare time, and I do beading. I've been doing beading for a couple of years now. Some people know this about me, some people don't. I went through breast cancer in 2020, and I started because I couldn't do anything. Couldn't write, couldn't think. And so while I was going through treatment, I started beading again, and I actually have an Etsy shop. So I want to get better at that. I don't want to just string beads and like little necklaces. I want to get better at that. I want to learn more and get better at that. So
what autistic social media accounts should people be paying attention to?
Oh, Neuroclastic, definitely. I think they have a great following, but I think people should always pay attention to them. Neurodivergent Rebel. I'm trying to think. There are a few. Autistic Callum, he's brilliant. Auntie Nell, she's brilliant. And Mind Your Autistic Brain, that's Carol Jean Whittington. And I'm trying to think. I can't think of any others off the top of my head, and I swear someone's going to be like, "Hi, how did you not think of this?" But unfortunately, when I'm put on the spot, it's hard for me to answer questions. So that's what I came up with.
What's one thing in your routine you couldn't possibly live without?
Oh, my routine. I can't, probably the one thing I mean, there's a lot, honestly. I mean, my routine is what I can't live without, but I would say taking hot baths. They're so comforting to me and wonderful, and I love them. So I love being in water. It's very soothing. So
Dog, cat, or must I choose?
Cat.
And then the last question, what does autistic joy mean to you?
Autistic joy. To me, autistic joy is when I experience something, like for me, it's cute stuff, anything cute. I have seen something cute in the wild, and I am 43 years old. And if I see something cute in the wild, I can, if I'm not careful to rein it in get all happy flappy and squealy like a kid. So autistic joy for me is like, let's say seeing a little kitten or a little lamb or just something cute. And I'm just like, I instantly turn into a little kid. And it's just everything. It's the moment that I forget that I'm not supposed to be acting that way. So like even if I'm scrolling through and I see something incredibly cute, I get to react to it the way my body and brain wants to react to it instead of reining it in. So that is what autistic joy is to me.
Is that our last one?
That is it.
Why can I never retain that autistic joy is the last question? I think I'm so invested in everybody's answer to that question that I forget it's the end every time. Well, thank you so much, Jaime. I really appreciate having you. I hope you had fun having a little chit chat with us. And I'm excited for everybody to get to know you a little bit better and hopefully read more of your stuff. Yeah, so thanks so much for joining us. And
thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.